Scripture reading today is from Matthew, chapter 9, verse 35 through chapter 10, verse 8. And this is the Message version. Then Jesus made a circuit of all the towns and villages. He taught in their meeting places, reported kingdom news, and healed their diseased bodies, healed their bruised and hurt lives. When he looked out over the crowds, his heart broke. So confused and aimless they were, like sheep with no shepherd. What a huge harvest, he said to his disciples. How few workers. On your knees and pray for harvest hands. The prayer was no sooner prayed than it was answered. Jesus called 12 of his followers and sent them into the ripe fields. He gave them power to kick out the evil spirits and to tenderly care for the bruised and hurt lives. This is a list of the 12 he sent. Simon, they called him Peter, or the Rock. Andrew, his brother. James, Zebedee's son John, his brother Philip. Bartholomew, Thomas. Matthew the taxman. James, son of Alphaeus. Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who later turned on him. Jesus sent his 12 harvest hands out with this charge. Don't begin by traveling to some far-off place to convert unbelievers, and don't try to be dramatic by tackling some public enemy. Go to the lost, confused people right here in the neighborhood. Tell them that the kingdom is here. Bring health to the sick, raise the dead, touch the untouchables, kick out the demons. You have been treated generously, so live generously.
The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Did you catch it? There was an instruction. First, Jesus taught one, went out, healed the sick, touched the untouchables, was out and about. And then he saw how wide the field was of people who might want to know the love of God. So he called for more people to help and named the first 12. And then they told them exactly what to do. Proclaim the good news, cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out the demons, is the original version in the Message. Tell people the kingdom is here. Bring health to the sick, raise the dead, touch the untouchables, kick out the demons. You and I have been treated generously, so live generously. For as many times as I have myself said, just tell me what to do and I'll do it, this is pretty convicting. For as many times as that comes up in a church or a job or with your kids or with your parents or wherever it may be, just tell me what to do and I'll do that. Bring health. Bring praise, tell of God's love. Cast out the demons, the things that bother people. And you don't have to go very far. Did you hear that other part? You don't have to go to the far reaches. You can start right here. And you don't have to be fancy about it. You can start right here. I was listening to a sermon, a wonderful sermon, on video about this very passage. A gentleman who had been a pastor for a while and was in a new church, and he was talking about the mission of making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. And as a way of beginning to get to know the people that were in front of him, he said, so how y'all doing that? And they talked about giving that they did, and maybe a Sunday school and VBS and things like that. And he said, have you talked to the neighbors? Let's draw a map that highlights where the church is, and then let's go about a couple blocks out, just a couple, all around the church. And then what would it be like if each one of you took one of the houses in that range immediately around the church? I don't know why I find that that daunting? Maybe because they're right here, whoever they are. The point he was making is, it's as close, the work that we have to do is as close as we are. In this neighborhood, my understanding now entering my 4th year here, is that there are people in this area who have said directly to me, we will probably never come to a service in your church, but we see this church as our church. That's actionable. That's us in the world. If that's happening, if who and how we are while we're inside the building carries out in such a way that that's what folks see, great. But then what? It's a tough thing to think about the fact that we have ministry right in our own area. It's easier to send a check to Jamaletu for the boys in the orphanage there, or easy. We're not interacting with them. They're probably not going to come here. It's easy to do those things. We can touch people that way. We can, and we can. What more might we do? How else might we be called? At annual conference, the class I took yesterday morning before we left had to do with immigration. It was led by 4 Spanish-speaking folks, and I loved the fact that they spoke in their first language, which was Spanish, and it was interpreted for those of us in the room. All of those not speaking were Caucasian and non-Spanish speaking, except for one. A young woman got up, 21 years old now, and she said, she gave me a perspective I had never, it simply wasn't on my radar until I listened to what she had to say. She said, we came to this country, my mother, my father, and I, when I was 1 year old. There was no way you could listen to this young woman's story and not be moved. She didn't talk about it in context of, oh, woe is me. She just said it was hard. They went to Idaho where there was already family. They lived in trailer homes and in places of protection when they could not afford any kind of housing because they were undocumented. There were things that they could and could not do because if you reveal yourself, you're in trouble. We see that today, years later, in the life of just this one person. She had things happen as a child that were abominable, and they struggled to find help for her and a way of educating her that would allow her to move forward because as their first child, she has a younger brother, they came here because it was not safe in the country they were coming from, and they believed in the promise of a better future here because there was family here. They worked hard wherever they could. They put together funds as they could. And it was when this young woman was a junior in high school that she realized her actual status in this country. She was not born here. She is not documented. She cannot go back to her, well, she could, I suppose. She said, I don't even know my home country. So even if it were a safe place, I don't know it. So I don't have any desire to go there, but I suddenly was not safe here. And with all the work that she had done to get through high school, she's a bright, bright young woman. Suddenly, it all came to a stop for her. She became angry at her parents for bringing her. She had no choice in the matter and felt she had nowhere to go. Turns out, there is a program called DACA, Deferred Action for Children, for Child Arrivals, for children who fall in this bracket, where they've been brought into the country, they're not born here, and as they grow, they find themselves in similar situations. This particular program was something that you could apply to. She has and got a full ride scholarship to do what she most wants to do in the world, which is be a nurse and continue. A young man stood up. He's now in his early 30s. A similar history. He came here with his family, his mother and his father, when he was 5. Same thing, doesn't know his home country. It wouldn't be safe there. That was why the parents came here, and now he's not safe here. Parents scraped together money for him to go to community college because it was the most accessible, and it was still virtually impossible to go there. It took 4 years to get a normal 2-year degree because of expenses, and he holds an associate's degree in information technology. He works with a school in the Portland area, teaching soccer. He runs a local food bank. He's active in his community, and he teaches computer classes. Sounds like an upstanding guy, yeah? Until ICE came and detained him for reasons they still don't know. The people in his community were such that they went down and they virtually stood on the toes of everyone who was detaining him. They blasted phone lines and fax lines so that the office where he was being held could not do anything until they released him, and they did. So now he's out, but his future has nowhere to move because all of the parameters that hold down this young man who is contributing in every way he can imagine and wants to be here with his parents and the kids he's teaching is still at a standstill. He had a DACA. It sounds a bit like a work visa sort of thing. It's renewable every 2 years. He had some funds and some support from the same DACA opportunity as the young woman who spoke before him, but he has to renew it every 2 years, and he was detained in the space where renewal would take place, and it takes at least 30 days to know whether or not you will be renewed, and there are contracts that have to be signed in order for him to continue his employment with school, and he did not want to sign with school in the event that he was not renewed so that he would not interfere with the life and hope and work of the people who know him well. There were more stories. 2 more. They're single examples, I'll grant you, but they bring forth the challenges that are happening, and they're happening here in this community and in communities across the country. This isn't just about politics. It's rising this year for a number of reasons with someone new in office, but it's more than that. I mean, these folks have been here 20 years. Why bring these up? Because both of these individuals and the 2 that followed said, if it were not the support of the United Methodist churches in our area, which had enough open-mindedness to see us and hold us and love us and look for ways to help, we would not have survived. Wow. That other denominations were fairly succinct in what could and could not happen, that there was no room for the possibility that hope resides outside or within the laws we currently have, and the story goes on and on. It sits in my heart, and it sits hard, because we know that that's happening here. We bumped up against it not all that long ago with the possibility of immigrant sanctuary. No one panic. That's not what I'm talking about now, but I am talking about what it would mean to go and cast out the demons that hold those folks back, that go to a place where there's healing and love and hope and a place to hang on to. Man, I don't have any idea what that life looks like for you, but I'm going to stand here until I either understand it or we can get to somewhere where more people understand it, so that we're looking at one another for who and how we are as created children of God, and not because you don't belong here because you weren't born here and I was, because you don't look like me, because. I sat in a room where if they had removed everyone except myself and the presenters, I would have been in the minority. I stood in a group of people waiting to fly to Guadalajara with Juana and Ruth last Saturday, and I was the only Caucasian in the bunch. And I'm here to tell you, both they and I knew that I did not speak the language. The potential for that to be scary or threatening was high for me, because I'll carry in a little bit of, I don't know for sure. I happen to be standing there with 2 women that I know well, Ruth and Juana, But I can tell you that had they not been there and I had been standing in that group, I did not at any moment in time feel like I was outside of them. Go, heal people, cast out the demons, touch the untouchables, raise the dead, share the good news. That's what it looks like. Not out there, but somewhere here. I have been studying like a fiend for school, and as you've heard, for more weekends than maybe you want to. Missions is really sitting hard in this space. That class is being taught by a member of the United Methodist Church, Paul Jeffries, who goes around the world documenting what it looks like to cast out demons, to touch the untouchable, to be friends, and in places where it's not, they're saying, what will we do? If we're going to go and we listen to this scripture as it's written, Jesus doesn't go and say, okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to build a church. I want you to come every Sunday and worship. I want you to do nice things with one another. I want you to think about maybe what you might do elsewhere, and good on you, and then hope that somebody comes. Go and do this. Heal the sick, cast out the demons, raise the dead, touch the untouchables. Spread the word that God is love and God is you, and therefore we are all love. Is it okay that we come here, that we have a building? Of course. That was then and this is now, you say, except that then is also now. If you're looking for someone to tell us what to do, and I'll put it there because I got to tell you there's a lot that's really convicting in my heart right now about what I do and don't do in this moment with the abundance that I have. But if you're looking for instruction, this is a good place to start, and this is the instructor. Feel like a little too much? So let's try on something else. Or another way of looking at it, for me, this was like, oh, I could do that in my neighborhood. I thought, oh, Sheila. You know, how sad are you? There was the sermon by the gentleman that I told you about saying, what happens if you go and you talk to the neighbors who were right next to you? I'm like, I don't know. And then I caught a letter that another reverend had written to the neighbors in his area to do this very thing. He wrote it like this and sent it out. An open letter to my non-church-going neighbors. Dear neighbors, I am that Christian who lives next door. You might have heard that I am a preacher, a pastor, or something of that sort. True. I believe in what Alcoholics Anonymous might call a higher power. We United Methodists call this power God. I'm the one who stands up on Sunday mornings in front of everyone in the church that's just down the street from you. When people die, I cry with them. When they marry, I laugh and share my joy with them. When children are born, I sprinkle water on their tiny heads. And if you don't believe me, just ask any of the other neighbors around you that happen to hang out there. Despite what you see on the news or read in the internet, all Christians don't necessarily believe the same way. We get painted with a fairly broad brush. So in case you're confused about that piece, I thought I'd take an opportunity to clear up the record. Here are some things that might be helpful to know. I'll never tell you you're going to hell. I will tell you that God is proud of you and loves you unconditionally. No matter who you love, I'll welcome you to my church because I don't believe God cares who you love or who you marry, only that you love. I believe science and religion have more in common than Bill Nye the Science Guy will ever admit. I will tell you that Jesus is not an American, and he didn't speak English. I will tell you I don't qualify my Christianity with adjectives. I'm just a Christian. I admit that professional atheists are as annoying as professional Christians. If I believed in the God that you believed in, I probably wouldn't go to church either. I can tell you, and I agree, that the Bible is full of inconsistencies and violence. But it's also full of amazing tales of love and redemption. It's not perfect, but it's the defining story of Western civilization as I know it. I'd love to read it together with you. Your neighbor, next door. It's a place to start. It's a place to define who and how we are. It's a place to move that doesn't require any of us to wait, just to go, to be going, to be in motion, to be who we are called to be. We get tied up in that piece that says we're called to do something. We are. Whatever you're passionate about, whatever makes you sing, is a piece of that calling. Where do you think it comes from? If not the love of God placed in you such that the calling you hold might open the doors so that you can heal and love and accept and grow. Yesterday morning at breakfast, we sat with Sylvia and I happened to be together yesterday morning at breakfast, and we're sitting next to folks that we didn't know and a couple that we did, and there was a woman who sat down next to me, and I will preface this by saying there were several different colors of name tags at the conference. Some remain a mystery in terms of why a particular color, but at the absolute end of conference, this woman sits down and she says, so what does the pink one mean? Mine was pink. I said, I don't know. Since the beginning we thought maybe it was pastors, but that's not true because we have some with other colors, and I know it's not local pastors. And she was so focused in on why that there was no other conversation you could have. Well, maybe it's this and we've heard it's that. And I said, I'm just happy that my name is readable on it, because that would be the important part, and it would not move. I don't think our going is to roll our wheels like that and put our energy in things that just don't make any difference. So when we're about healing and loving and growing, may it be filled with all the things that make us not Methodist or Episcopalian or Catholic or whatever, but make us Christians, and may we speak in that language, Christ's language, that says this is what we will do as Christians. And then keep going. Is it scary? You bet. So here's my answer to that. In case you've never been in my office, that's where it lives when it's not there. At annual conference, we know that the mission, most of you, if not all of you, know that the mission of the United Methodist Church is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. That's our mission. We just said, why would we override that? That's the mission. Let that be our mission here. There was no change in that wording officially, but I thought it was interesting and delightful that Bishop Elaine Stanowski, who was installed there, did a presentation where she reduced it to this: love God, love neighbor, and do good things that change the world. May it be so. Amen and amen.